If there is one thing that brings people together across the world, regardless of culture, religion or language, it's this moment right here. The simple act of sitting down and sharing a meal with the people we love. And what better gift can you give your loved ones than the best food on the planet cooked to absolute perfection? Of course, we are talking about steak, but not just any steak. Today, I'm going to help you choose the right steak to serve your family, your friends, basically your loved ones. And I'm going to show you how to make sure that each one of them gets exactly what they enjoy most. Because when you cook steak like this, you're not just feeding people, you're creating a memory, an experience. And that's what my brand Steak Academy is all about. So let's start. Today we are having two probably most popular steaks on the planet, a ribeye and a beautiful tenderloin. And here's why I believe these two steak cuts are the best basic option for any family gathering. Let's start with the ribeye. So the ribeye consists out of two muscles. First, we have the spinalis dorsi, also known as the ribeye cap, and the longissimus muscle, also known as the eye of the ribeye. And here is where things get interesting. As you can see, we have a lot of fat and connective tissue. So everywhere you see fat, there's connective tissue in between the meat and the fat. In some cases, this connective tissue and fat can be really chewy and tough, especially if you are dealing with older animals. And if there's one thing that makes steak stand out from many other foods, it's their ability to age. The whole ribeye section is perfect for dry aging, which this particular steak is. Now, without going into too much detail in this video, dry aging makes your steak more tender while changing the flavor profile. So, if you're cooking for your kids, this may not be the best option, as not all dry chambers create the same flavor. It can sometimes be too strong even for females, as well as the fat and connective tissue being a big downside for our beloved females and kids. With exceptions, of course. This, for instance, is 40 days dry aged and the animal is 18 months old. While my butcher has a really specific dry aged chamber where this is not overpowering. So in this case, most kids and females would enjoy the flavor. That's exactly where the tenderloin shines. It is very lean and very tender, actually the most tender cut on the entire animal. But since this muscle has so little movement, it doesn't have a very pronounced beefy flavor. So most hardcore steak lovers kinda hate it, where I strongly disagree. Why? Because thankfully we can add some amazing flavor to our steak to make it spectacular. The tenderloin is already super tender, which is a big plus because that's what most people want. A tender, juicy and flavorful steak. Let's now cook these amazing steaks and let me show you how to treat each one of them to get the best possible results. Okay, just before we prepare our grill and the steaks, let's work on the butter. Butter is one of the flavor elements that we're gonna add to our fillet. So I always recommend using a stainless steel, or you can also use a cast iron small skillet like this. Now we're gonna add some butter and we're gonna baste our tenderloin. This is grass-fed butter, Kerrygold, my favorite butter that we can buy in Croatia. And now we place our butter close to the fire, so it's gonna slowly melt. Now when it comes to seasoning our steak, I'm gonna only use black pepper. And as you can see, our fillet has the butcher twine. In this case, it's better to remove it because sometimes this butcher twine pushes the steak too much and then it's hard to get a crust on these outside edges. So in this case, it's pretty thick, we're gonna just take it off. Now you just find the butcher twine and away from you, that's it. And now the other one, that's why it's important to have a sharp knife and then just slice. I actually like to use this tray so we don't lose any of the seasoning. Again, black pepper. And the goal is to coat the whole surface nicely and evenly. This black pepper is also gonna help us in achieving this amazing crust. If you're gonna have a really lean steak like this one, then I would add oil because it will help to get that crust, and extra virgin olive oil actually protects it so it will burn less. Same thing on the other side. Make sure to coat everything and don't worry about the pepper on the tray. We're gonna use everything, you will see in a moment. Now extra virgin olive oil just a little bit. Make sure to have just a really tiny layer so our seasoning sticks even better. And again, it's protecting the beef. And now we add black pepper. As you can see, pretty thick, but also small. This is a unique shape of tenderloin. It's cut closer to the tail, and I'm gonna show you the best way to actually cook this. Now we take everything what's left on the tray and make sure the whole surface is coated with black pepper. And now we're gonna just remove this from the fire so we can take our charcoal. And now we're gonna prepare the hot side. As always, make sure to have a clean grill. Look at the smoke, that's how you know you have the right temperature. We're gonna start with this one because it's a bigger, it's gonna take longer. Full contact is always necessary. So the goal here is to create a crust as fast as possible. Let's now check the crust. Exactly what you want. Always full contact. Again, we rotate until we get an amazing crust, if we are using a grill like this. Okay, so now we have flames. Whenever you have flames, you need to remove the steak. Almost crust perfection, but we need to place the steak away from the flames because too much flames will end up with a burnt oily taste. Now our steak has almost the perfect crust on both sides. It's time to add this beautiful tenderloin steak. Let's now check on the other side. This is the crust you want. Once the crust is almost there, we're gonna use the other part of the embers. And now we are working on the gentle side. So this is now ready for the gentle side. And we can flip this one. Wow, look at this crust. Perfection. And here we flip every minute. Another also important aspect is when you are using the tenderloin, you really need to make sure that there's no silver skin. Again, this is super tender, lean, and basically kids to older people, everybody enjoys a tenderloin. If you are choosing a dry-aged ribeye, it's also good to have a trusted source. Again, not every dry-aged chamber produces the best flavor. Sometimes the ribeye can be too overpowering, that requires a specific flavor palette. But if you're using a 24-month-old animals that are dry-aged for less than 50 days, the flavor should not be too strong. And especially all my male friends, a lot of them enjoy much more a really juicy and fatty ribeye more than this one. But the difference is mostly not in the flavor, but in the fat. Because with this steak, we're gonna create a lot of flavor first with the black pepper, second with the charcoal, and third, we're gonna use this butter and create even more layers of flavor. And now we have an amazing crunchy crust, And since we have this part of the tenderloin, we're gonna also add a slightly crust on the sides. The goal here is to not overdo the sides. Why? Because you want it to be juicy and tender, and sometimes if you create too much crust on the sides, it's just gonna make your steak a bit drier and a bit more tough. Again, here we are flipping every minute. Another great way, if you're hosting a big party or a family gathering, you can use also a whole tenderloin roast. If you're interested, I can also make a video about this. And then you can cook it even on the smoker or in the oven, and then you can finish it on the grill. And then you have an amazing roast, which is extremely tender and juicy. As you can see, amazing crust on both sides, and the edges have just a little bit of color. That's exactly what you want. Now we're gonna have an even doneness of the whole steak with a little bit of that crispiness and crust on the sides. And now we're gonna place it on the gentle side. And now guys, this is one of the biggest secrets. We use rosemary, you can use thyme, whatever you want. I most of the time use rosemary and thyme, today only rosemary. Now we're gonna use this butter, it has been melting, and we're gonna baste only our tenderloin steak. And that's smoky flavor. It's gonna add so much flavor to our steak. You can also use the butter on the dried steak, but sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes you hear people say you can never use butter on dry steak, you want to feel the flavor of the steak. Yes, kinda true, but adding butter to this steak will also make it different and unique in its own way, which I sometimes also do. Again, the main point is to find out what your friends and family enjoy most, and that's what you cook then. We repeat on the other side, add that amazing smoky perfume. Wow, this will create so much flavor, it's gonna be crazy. Now we can also place it on the sides, and to make sure this amazing steak is getting heat from all sides so it cooks more even. Make sure we have really high heat, and now we're gonna sear the sides. Okay, so now ribeye is ready. Now we're gonna let it rest. This is gonna actually finish it cooking, and by the time it's rested, this will be perfect edge-to-edge medium rare. Our tenderloin is almost ready. We're just gonna add a little bit of that butter. Now guys, the moment of truth. First, let's start with the ribeye. Wow, look at that fat. Amazing. As always, crunch test. Sliced in half. Edge to edge perfection. Now the spinalis. Now the tenderloin. As you can see, perfect, even doneness. Just under medium rare. This is, in my opinion, the best doneness for a tenderloin. we add the salt and also the final flavor element for both the tenderloin and the ribeye is extra virgin olive oil from Croatia. And of course my picanha made some amazing garlic mushrooms. I wish you could smell it. Okay, let's first try the ribeye. As you can see, some fat. Amazing crust. You can feel the juiciness from the fat, the texture from the fat, the crust, amazing. Let's now try the tenderloin. Super lean. Completely different. Melt in your mouth. You can sense the crust, the crunchiness, the flavor from the butter, from the basting, from the charcoal. Truly amazing. And now let's try it together with one of those mushrooms. I don't have a knife and a fork here, but doesn't matter. If you follow everything and find out what your loved ones really want, this is one of the best meals you can create for them.